Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to this our seminar that is the End of Glory Days goes with the DAN Sustainable Tour. We are a couple of dozen people here in our auditorium, but there will be hopefully more in the line following us. My name is Räisänen-Sokolowski. I'm a diving physician working for DAN Europe, and this session I will be chairing this. I would like to remind you that this event will be recorded, including the remarks from the audience. Arvoisa yleisö, koko tapahtuma tallennetaan, myös yleisön kommentit. The first speaker will be the Ilari Kurri, who unfortunately wasn't able to come here, but we have his video greeting. He's director of the governing body of Suomenlinna, the venue place that we are currently.
Dear DAN ambassadors, Alana Alvarez and Manuel Bustelo, dear audience at Suomenlinna and people who are taking part remotely to this seminar. I wish to welcome you all to this one-day seminar to discuss about sustainability and climate change, which is organized together with Diverse Alert Network, Finland and Finnish Heritage Agency. In Suomenlinna, we have 1 million visitors in a normal year, but I'm convinced that you are the first ones to arrive here with an electrical car through the whole Europe, all the way from Italy. We are very happy to have you, since we have common concern, global warming and well-being of our seas. Everywhere we look around us, topics are screaming climate change, pro and contra. It seems a very hard topic to discuss and talk about. So this is important to have this seminar and have talks from different perspectives. In the program, we have our DAN ambassadors, maritime archaeologist, psychologist, and marine biologist. We all understand the value of scientific knowledge and the need for it from below to waves. This is also a look in the future, since the training of underwater specialists is about to start in the Scientific Diving Academy in Tvärminnen, and we all hope for the great future for the Academy and ESP, who has taken the torch in organizing the system. Suomenlinna is an 18th century fortress, and it is surrounded by the Gulf of Finland, the most vulnerable area of the Baltic Sea. As a custodian of this UNESCO World Heritage Site, we cannot concentrate only having historical building in shape. We are also aware of the problems of our sea is facing. Today, we have the possibility to learn more of it with the presentation of marine specialist Robert Linkman, a pioneer in scientific diving and grounding member of Badevanne diving team, which has brought to us so much forgotten information of the war graves and wrecks. This team is specialized in deep water diving and takes us to the places where just a few have visited and will ever visit. Their way of committing free time and sharing their stories sets an example, which many could learn. It's important that we acknowledge that it is our common and shared heritage. In the governing body of Suomenlinna, we have a program for sustainable office, and we are one main partner agency in the government pilot initiative of Sustainable Agencies program. We are living a decade that matters, and our everyday choices has an impact on what kind of future we will have. In a historical fortress, it is a question of the future of our past. We should zoom in to take a look in the working culture we have in maintaining the island, and every once in a while zoom out and see the bigger image. What are the scenarios of the future? The governing body of Suomenlinna has the privilege of being partner in a research program, The End of Glory Days, Biography of Swedish Wrecks as a Blue Heritage of Suomenlinna. I don't think Minna was aware how well the title fits into this time, where people are concerned that they need to give up something in able to save resources. We are bad in reducing. We should concentrate on rethinking the ways we do things. In a way, the old saying reduce, reuse, recycle should today be redo or rethink, reuse and recycle. As a small island, part of our maintenance traffic uses electricity in gas, and we have a bold goal to replace all our maintenance tools to gas and electricity till 2025. Actually, our mail was handled with an electrical car already over 20 years ago. However, I would not have dared to even think of driving to Italy with this car. So thanks for the technology, which will create more sustainable choices for us. And by the way, I think that the mail car back then wasn't very sustainable by modern standards. I wish you all a very nice day. Enjoy this presentation and talk about the climate change and find good ways for more meaningful and sustainable life. Have a good seminar. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a very nice introductory talk to our seminar. So I give the floor next to Dr. Minna Koivikko, who will then talk about this aforementioned the End of Glory Days project. Please, Minna.
Thank you, Anna. I can't express my feelings how happy I am to be able to stand here in a live audience, because it's been a while. And for our audience at home, I would like to say that it would be very lovely to see you all here, but you know, the situation is not that good yet, but probably in the future we will have more bigger seminars. Actually, there's one already coming. It's going to be next February, and it's going to be in Karlskrona. But yes, my topic. The End of Glory Days project and sustainability. I think in Finland we are quite sustainable already, so there is always things we can do better. But what we are talking about when we are thinking about sustainability? There are really many aspects. United Nations has placed this program, and it will take into account 5 P's: people, prosperity, peace, partnership, and planet. So I couldn't resolve the problem that what is my project going to be with sustainability, so I was thinking that maybe I would ask you the question and to assist, and that is the way of doing modern research. Participating in the audience, and it's not like a solo project, it's a common project for all of us. So what is sustainability in maritime archaeology? And maybe we can think also about diving, and especially in maritime archaeological research. So how do we create a research project acknowledging many aspects of sustainability? I think the closest to us all is this planet, so that we will take care of our environment, and especially when we are here in the middle of the Baltic Sea, in the Gulf of Finland, surrounded by water in Ireland. I think that is maybe our biggest task. So here are the Sustainable Development Goals, and there was Oslo Forum this week, and there was a lot of discussion about climate change and how can culture help fill implementation gaps in the achievement of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I started to put blue arrows that it could be important, starting with this: protecting marine heritage helps achieve healthy and productive oceans. But there are so many more, so there is a lot to discuss about. The audience who are listening us remotely. So we are here in Suomenlinna, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's located in front of Helsinki, and it's about 15 minutes ferry trip from the mainland. And in ordinary years we have 1 million visitors, and in extraordinary years we have 2 visitors coming with electric car all the way from Italy. And we have 850 inhabitants, and I have the privilege of being one of them. I've been living on these islands over 20 years, and I have to say that one of the sustainable goals is to be local. So in Suomenlinna there's a possibility to be local and also very global. So it's this act local and think global aspect. So Suomenlinna is very interesting because it has such a colorful history. It was built when we were part of Sweden with French money, and so it was the European Union style that way during those years. And then we were over 100 years part of Russia, and now we have had the independence a bit over 100 years. So this geographic location and the past makes this a perfect spot to talk about changing climate. As Ilari mentioned, it is a difficult subject to talk about. It is emotional and existential, and that's why we are also having a psychology summit today, talking about the psychological aspect, so that we can all learn something about ourselves and our reactions to the difficult thing, because it is something we can't, avoid. And I think this zooming in and zooming out way of thinking things is very good, because you need to be motivated and look at the big picture and the global warming and what is happening, and then zoom in and kind of come to your blue mind, so that you can concentrate and give your best what you can and feel good about it. So it's no point of feeling too much anxiety. So as researchers of the past, we can offer another angle. We can build trust on human resilience. Humans, we are a very tough race. We have survived so many difficult times. And to offer, especially when we are talking about the marine environment, we can offer tools to build a personal blue mind and blue space. So we are kind of attracting people to come to the sea and look at your mind's eye, the underwater cultural landscape, and feel better. So this is the name of the project, and it's part of the Lost Navy program, which is run by Stockholm University, and it's the question of Sweden's blue heritage during those times, 1450 until 1850, and it's funded by Riksbanken's Jubileumsfond, and it runs for 6 years. And as such, this is the biggest research project in the Baltic Sea area within humanities, and it's very happy to be able to be part of it. Although this sounds quite grand, but until this point in Finland we are only building up this project. So we have kind of one leg in Sweden, but still we have to build this project here. Suomenlinna has this UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has 80 hectares of land and equal amount of water. So it is something to think about, because normally you don't really pay attention on the underwater part of the fortress. 10 years ago we had this survey of the area, and we managed to have the 3D landscape visible. And this was also very important for the local people, because for the first time the landscape was visual, and we could see the traces of human actions in the underwater landscape. So you probably have seen in telly this documentary series about the oceans without water. So we had that already 10 years ago. So we had an exhibition in Suomenlinna Museum, and there was a possibility to move with 3D from top land to underwater. So for example, in this picture, you can see the submarine Vesikko, and submarine Vesikko has a secret friend underwater. It has this huge embankment which was built to be able to have a dry dock enlargement for the Russian Baltic fleet. It was the dreadnought class of ship which needed a bigger pool, and they built from wood a huge construction, and behind this wooden construction was supposed to build a proper gate from stone, but it was never finished, and the whole construction was left underwater. So I think this is the biggest ancient monument underwater made out of woods in the whole world. I haven't heard of the bigger ones. But anyways, if you can imagine a log house which is 100 meters long and about 10 meters high, that's the size of the thing which is there. So these elements aren't always small. So yeah, we had that exhibition and it was very popular. But the problem with underwater heritage is that it's not visual, and when you walk, you are looking at the landscape with your mind's eye, so you need to have the information. But we are visual, so we need more visual material, and that is the common task for us divers and archaeologists. So there are plenty of questions. How could we introduce these sites to the audience, outdoors or indoors, for personal use or for groups, for locals or for tourists, or all these options? Now we have a tiny exhibition at Ehrensvärd Museum, because Ehrensvärd has a jubileums year, so there is also this underwater part has been taken under consideration. So they asked me that if I have something to offer for the exhibition, so I put my old winter diving gear there. So we are going to meet my old suit there in the museum. We can also organize these kind of nice events. We had 2017 a very big event when the log barrier embankment was 100 years, and we installed a plate into it. It's a joke, but it's in Finnish. Hirsiarkku pate, 100 vuotta pohjalla, 100 years at the bottom. So yesterday we had a quite nice happening on the shoreline when we were taking Manu and Alana to meet the old wooden wreck, and I think we should in cooperation with Sukeltajaliitto and Finnish Maritime Archaeological Society, we should start to run these sort of events like a regular basis. We also have a very interesting Swedish warship just in front of Helsinki. It's a ship of the line, Crown Prince Gustav Adolf. There's been a underwater trail over 20 years now, and it's been really popular. And during those 20 years, we've been dreaming that we could have a sign on land also explaining about the event and about the ship and the tragedy, and we finally did. So if someone feels really outdoors today, you can walk until Kustaamiekka and see the sign there. So about this project, I already told you about the time and the scale, and in Finland I have managed to get a lot of good partners for this. So it is run by Finnish Heritage Agency, where I'm working, and governing body of Suomenlinna. That's the reason why it was so easy to organize this seminar over here. and then Helsinki University, because we want to train students, and Maritime Archaeological Society, which is a very extremely important partner for us because of so many talented people is combined under those wings, and I think we could all give a hand to Keke, who is streaming our our event. And then we have Vesa in the audience, who is also taking care of us. Thank you, Vesa. So this is not nailed yet, but the way we went into the program is the key question of how many of the wooden wrecks of the underwater cultural landscape of the fortress are relevant to the event of 1808 and were part of the archipelago fleet. So in 1808, the Swedes went off and Russians came, and what was left behind was over 100 vessels from the Swedish fleet, from the archipelago fleet. So the question is that these wooden wrecks, which are surrounded, around the fortress, which of them are connected into this event, and also archival research, which is going to be conducted by Magdalena Hellström, which we're going to meet today, and she's going to go into archives and find out what's there to know about these 100 vessels. So yesterday we were diving in this Hilma wreck. So actually I wasn't diving yesterday, but on the winter I did. So it has been dendrodated after 1780, and hopefully if we can have the funding, we will have archaeological excavation in August 2020, and this is going to be cooperation with Maritime Archaeological Society and Helsinki University, so that it should be like educational excavations. So the idea is to train new maritime archaeologists, because we are only a handful in Finland who are active, so we really need new professionals, because this handful is, turning old. Last winter we had our two important partners, Kari Hyttinen and Pasi Lammi, who were here modeling two of our wrecks. This is the other one. So it was actually Maritime Archaeological Society who tested their drill 2 years ago. So we learned that this is made out of pine. It is still undated and unidentified. So here is an image where you can see the old way of making documentation on the right up corner. No, it's the left. So in the left corner, so you can understand that there's a difference when you have the photogrammetric model, where you can zoom in and circle and make interpretations, compared to this old style when you are measuring with the tape measure and drawing everything. That was 10 years ago when we still had education for scientific divers, so they did their field works here then too. So I think this was the last course we have had. So there is a big need for scientific divers. So this project fits well for the ocean decade, and we are trying to find new type of narratives from history to be able to act different type of people, and more information of the Swedish fleet wrecks. And we try to identify as many wrecks as possible. Now we've been talking about the Kasuni wreck that we should invest, because it doesn't have an identity yet. It's an intact wreck from 18th century, and we have to take a close look that if there is a possibility that it's a part of the Swedish fleet, and of course this possibility for students to participate and learn. And in underwater archaeology, there's always space for some development of new methods which suit the wooden wrecks. No one else actually does those, because they don't have such a good preservation as we have. I'm distracted because there's a big spider in front of me. So this place where we are is called Baarlasti, so it's a ballast room, and it has been renovated, and we are the first ones to be able to use it. So we are very grateful for the governing body of Suomenlinna and the spider that it lets us in. So other works are welcome, but we are going to concentrate on Suomenlinna and the study of shipbuilding. So our cooperation goes to the active dock we have here, all those still sailing wooden ships. Sorry, future wrecks possibly. And then we have this Hahtiperä wreck, which was discovered in Oulu a few years ago, and there's going to be Katarina Vuori, who is a archaeologist, and she will be a PhD student hopefully next year, and she will go on with this wreck. And one aim is also to support Tvärminnen Scientific Diving Academy and have a good cooperation there. And last but not least, very, very important, to develop cooperation with volunteer sector and increase citizen science. And I think we are already quite good at that because we have such a long history of doing cooperation, but because the world changed, we also need to change the way we do things. At the Finnish Heritage Agency, we are not always the quickest and the first ones, but we are also learning how do you say it? Well, we are an agency who has ability to learn from mistakes. And next year we are going to have this global conference, which is the biggest congress in maritime archaeology in the whole world. Last time it was held, it was 2016 in Australia. And now I wish you all welcome to Helsinki. And if you want to read more about Suomenlinna, you can download my PhD. It's there. And then my last slide, because I was thinking about this blue mind and how could I give an example. Well, of course, it's for me living in an island. It's very easy to go cold water swimming and write poems and paint. But anyways. Our aim is to tell stories of seas to attract people to find their own blue minds and to promote creativity, happiness and trust for the future. So I have a role model, it's Sylvia Earle, and I think she has framed it quite nicely. That find a blue pocket you love that derives you to protect the ocean. With no blue, there's no green, no us either. Thank you.
Then we invite our Italian guests. So Manuel and Alana, please, the floor is yours, and you will tell us about your exciting tour across the Europe with your electric car.
Hello, hi. Okay, can you hear me well? All right. Well, thank you guys all for coming. Thank you, Anne, Minna, and the rest of the Finnish Heritage Agency for organizing this. We feel so happy and so honored to be here today. And you to be here and listen to us, it's a pleasure for us. So my name is Alana Alvarez. I've been a DAN ambassador since 2018. I am a nature lover and ocean passionate. I have a background on pharmaceutical chemistry and growing studies in sustainable development. And this is providing me the right skill set to take care of both humans and the planet. I'm gonna let my companion, Manu, to introduce himself.
Thank you, Alana. Thank you, my love. Hello, everybody. We'd like to, as Alana said, thank you, Anne, our colleague from DAN Europe in Finland, for helping organize this great event. We'd like to thank Minna. It was a great presentation, and also for hosting us here. We had a beautiful day yesterday. We'd like to thank our colleagues making possible that this event can be live streamed on YouTube. And last but not least, we'd like to thank you for coming here today and the people watching us behind the computer today and probably even later, since they can replay this live streaming. I'd also like to thank my, I call her my wife. We're not officially married, but I'd like to thank her because it's been already 110 days, or a little bit more, that we have spent every single hour of the day together, and she still says that she loves me. So that, thank you for that, and for your patience. And we're really happy to be here. Also, it was a great introduction that was given also Melina. We understand that we're the first people that made it from Italy to Melina on an electric vehicle. We love to take questions by the end of our 20-30 minutes talk. Let's begin. So you might see on the screen that there's a black slide there, and it's exactly the same that you can see when you look at the sky. Sometimes, perhaps at night, you have stare at the stars and you see that there are places where you can see more light than others. But there's a very particular place, actually some of them, that if you look up, you won't see any light. There's no light reaching our eyes. Those are dark spots on the sky. And the guys from NASA, National Aerospace Agency, back in the 90s, when they launched Hubble, they were curious about that black spot on the space. So they said, okay, let's point Hubble for 4 days, and we'll open, the mirror, we'll let the light come in, and see what we find. Perhaps we won't see anything, perhaps we see something, and they did find, they actually found plenty of things, like this photo reflects after 4 days of pointing at that dark spot on the sky. And as they zoom into the photo, you will see on the right-hand side of the screen that there's a galaxy pretty much like the Milky Way that appears that has about 4.5 billion years old, which is the same age that planet Earth has. So it's 4.5 billion years away from us. And if you zoom even farther on the photo, they actually saw two galaxies that they were in the period of being formed, that were about 13 billion years away from us, so 13 billion light years away from us. Those numbers are really mind-boggling. We know that 1 + 1 is 2, so that's very easy. But when we start, adding billions to the numbers, it sort of gets a little bit dizzy. Just as a reference, on planet Earth, we're almost 8 billion people. On the Milky Way, the galaxy where we live, there's between 100 billion to 400 billion stars. That's only stars, like the sun. So that's 40 to 400 times more, 10 to 40 times more people that we live on Earth, only on the Milky Way. So, of course, if you think about what it means that if they spot the Hubble telescope to that black dot in the space and they found out that there's so much life, that's a very, very small spot on the sky. So we compare that, what happened there, with the photo that was taken a few years before by the Voyager 1. You might have heard about this Voyager 1 and 2 that they were launched back in 1976, and 34 minutes before the camera was shut off for good, so they can preserve battery, they order the Voyager 1 to turn around and take a photo of planet Earth. It was 3.5 billion kilometers away from Earth. It was actually reaching the edge of the solar system, and this is what the Voyager 1 saw from us. This, as Carl Sagan called, the pale blue dot on the sky. So basically, every human being, every wreck that has sunk, everyone that you love or that has been loved in the past, everything that's going to happen in the future, it is happening on this pale blue dot. A tiny dot of light floating on the sky that make us aware how special we are, but yet at the same time make us aware how much we are alone. We are something that we need to take care of. And that is what gives us the floor to now speak specifically about planet Earth and why we're doing this tour. So I'm going to give the word and the floor to Alana.
Thank you. Well, yeah, that's home. Every time I look at this photo, I remain speechless. Do you realize how lucky we are? Everything we know is in there. This little pale blue dot is providing us with all we need for our survival. It's so little in what seems like a vast universe, but still is our whole. This planet Earth, we love it all, of course. We are nature lovers, and we love mountains, we love forests. But today, we're here to speak to you about the 70% that covers this beautiful planet. I mean, oceans, of course. As divers, we're here representing DAN Europe today. DAN Europe is a foundation that has been existing since 1983 and has been providing divers with all the safety, medical research for their safety. DAN Europe is a nonprofit that survives or exists thanks to donations and memberships of divers. And we reinvest all that income into more medical research and more diving safety. Today, we cannot speak about diving safety if we don't speak about ocean safety too. So, as DAN Europe, we have been the meeting point for what is the most important things for all divers out there, that is safety, of course. It's an organization that is trusted by all its members. And we started thinking, okay, we need to use that outreach power that we have inside the community to do good and to protect what is our playground that we know that is in really bad shape and threat today. So we started thinking, okay, what else can we do to better protect our oceans? And that's when we realized that the biggest threat that the oceans are facing today, besides plastics, besides ocean pollution, besides all the things that we already are aware of, is a huge problem that is ocean acidification. Ocean acidification, as its name says so, is the acidification of our ocean environment. And it's completely related to CO2 emissions. We're not going to enter right now into chemical details, but since the Industrial Revolution, oceans have become 26% more acidic. And this happens because oceans have the ability to absorb CO2 from the environment. The problem is that now they are almost arriving to saturation levels. And that's, of course, occasionating the pH to become more acidic, and this completely alters the biochemistry of the ocean, and of course, the survival of all the environment that it represents. As you can see in this little image, the pH goes down. pH, if goes down, becomes more acidic and less acidic. So it goes more acidic as long as CO2 emissions rise up. So they are directly related. And that's when we realize, okay, we know that we still need to add on the ocean. We need still to do beach cleanup. We need to still raise awareness directly on the ocean. But we also need to step out of that playground that we love that much and get into land, because as you can see, this is a problem that cannot be solved on the oceans. CO2 emissions all come from our daily life basis. So we need to change our lifestyles if we want to better protect our ocean. That's how the Sustainable Tour project was born. We say, okay, we are a group of divers that know what we need to do on land to better protect our ocean ecosystems. And of course, if you think about it, the CO2 emissions are mostly related to our need for transport. So we need to promote a better, a more sustainable lifestyle and a more sustainable mobility initiative if we want healthier oceans. This is the map of the tour that we originally planned. As Manu said, we have already been 110 days, almost 4 months, almost, on the road. We started this beautiful journey back in Italy, in a little town called Roseto delle Abruzzi, where the DAN Europe headquarters are located, and where we live. We have already traveled 16,000 kilometers in an electric vehicle. We are still about 12,000 kilometers more to go back to Italy. With this initiative, we are trying not only to raise awareness on the CO2 rising emissions that represent a threat for the ocean, we also wanted to be to carry out a message of hope. That's why we plan to meet with several companies that are working in solutions for this huge problem that climate change represents. So we meet with stakeholders along the way, companies and startups that are becoming a hope for us, especially for how young most of the CEOs and the founders of these companies are, showing that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So, yeah, this is our journey, and I'm gonna let Manu speak a little bit more about what have we learned in this process.
Thank you, my love, for explaining what DAN is about and how the Sustainable Tour was born. So, of course, when we thought about the Sustainable Tour, we said, okay, we need to understand better how does sustainability evolve and what is it all about. So, for instance, you know, we all probably use backpacks. I don't know who is the owner of this one, but that doesn't matter. The point is, do you or anyone wants to risk a number of how many pieces are needed to create and to sew a backpack like this one together, which is not very big? You want to have a go? Anyone? 100? Yeah, you might be close. You might be close because a backpack for a kid, which is smaller than this one, takes about 40 pieces to be sewn and put together. So we met first of all with Deuter, which is a company that has been for 120 years on the market already. We spent a whole day with them. This is one example of many that unfortunately due to time constraints we can't give you. Alana showed the map of what we're doing, but this is not about the map, it's about the journey. So what we learned from Deuter, as well as what we learned from other companies, is that first of all, if a company, the business sector, wants to be sustainable, the first thing they need to do is to be profitable. Because if they're not profitable, they're out of business and there's no way they can actually create the change. So Deuter might have done something very good because they've been for 120 years on the market. But they you know, lay out a kid's backpack and they say, listen, it's really difficult for us to you know, find 40 different pieces which are actually of recycled materials. We're working on it. However, it's also about not pushing consumption, but it's about you know, finding solutions. So they came up with the idea of fixing backpacks for people that buy them, no matter when. So we went down to the cellar where they have lots of people in different posts showing backpacks that they were bought no matter which year, and we saw one from 2002. It was similar to this one, but it was greasy, it has lost color, and the zip was broken. Yet the owner had the chance to send it to Deuter so they can change the zip and he can continue to use it. So that was another message that we have seen all along the way, how companies are trying to, besides using recyclable materials, such as the one that I'm wearing here, which is also from Deuter, 100% PVC recycle, they're also pushing the consumers to say, listen, perhaps it's not about buying stuff in the way that we were used to. It's about now working together and you know, keep you as a customer in our brand, but not necessarily you know, buying new stuff. So that was a great lesson from them. A second one that we want to highlight is we stopped by the Netherlands. This was more related to the scuba divers here and also looking at us. We were put in touch actually with Healthy Seas by Hyundai. You've seen the car that Alana showed in a photo. It's also out here. You've seen it live. And Hyundai is working with Healthy Seas, supporting the activities that Healthy Seas do across Europe. They are part of ghost nets divers or ghost divers that they collect ghost nets. We had the chance of talking about this issue with some of you yesterday. And they get out there through the Mediterranean, Atlantic as well, collect ghost nets that are sent to a company in Italy. They recycle those nets together with the other 80% of the nets that they receive that they actually come from fishermen. Discarded nets before they enter into the sea, which is a lot better because they don't lie on the ground killing marine life. And then they recycle the nets, companies, different companies, such as Hyundai, they use those recycled materials to produce the interior of new cars. So there is one line, unfortunately not the car that we have out here, but that came out in February that has all the carpets and some of the side fabrics of the doors made with the recycled nets and ghost nets supported by them and recovered by Healthy Seas. So we saw how they were recovering it was 150 kilograms net, 25 kilometers off the coast of the Netherlands. And they're doing a great job. And then, of course, we care a lot about sustainable mobility just for the right reasons of what Alana explained before, you know, CO2 levels rising and the relationship with the ocean. However, we also care about sustainable mobility, not just in terms of cars, or bicycles or public transport, that, by the way, they make sustainable mobility as a whole, but also what kind of new technologies are coming out there. For instance, hydrogen. We were able to drive a hydrogen car in Brussels. We took a tour around the city and test that kind of technology, which are technologies that can spread and be taken further, such as the maritime sector. And that touches us very close because there's a lot of scuba divers here. We scuba dive, we have scuba dive, luckily and fortunately, in many different places around the world, and we always jump on a boat unless you're doing a coast dive from beautiful Bonaire. And those boats, most of the time, end up in marine protected areas, such as Costa Brava, for instance, Islas Medas or Medas Islands. And all boats are using gasoline in their engines, and some of them are using actually dinghies with two-stroke engines. And you can see sometimes how the oil, is actually reaching that water. So we're really interested in seeing how potentially the whole diving industry within the next 10 years can go from using gasoline engines in their boats to more sustainable means of transport. And hydrogen seems to be promising this as other technologies. By the way, Healthy Seas will be testing a new hydrogen potentially boat in the years to come. So other examples that we saw, in particular in Norway, Scandinavia, but particularly in Norway, they're working a lot because of the advance that they have in electric vehicle transport. They're working a lot on bringing this to other sectors. And once again, we visited a very interesting startup that has come up with a solar boat. So yes, it's a boat that has an electric engine, it's got batteries, and a solar roof. So the only mean of charging those batteries is the solar roof. And by the way, there are certain moments, depending on the speed of the boat and the energy from the sun, that you can actually run the boat only using the energy that comes directly from the solar panels into the engine. And we tested it, and it does work. So there's this amazing technology that eventually, maybe in 5 years, can reach the diving industry. We also visited Beyonder, a company that is making batteries out of sawdust. So, when you cut off, the furniture and the remaining wood, that is being used to make batteries. That's also very important for us because even if electric vehicles nowadays, they are a mean of moving into more sustainable transportation, yet they are not fully sustainable because we're still using batteries that they need minerals, and mining sometimes take us to limits that they go beyond of what we can control. We have discussed extensively the issue of deep sea mining and how we need to better look at what consequences this might bring. So beyond there was a very interesting company to actually see that there are solutions on the table already. And then last but not least, the photo on the right-hand side of the screen is with a company called Plug, that they provide recharging stations for electric boats being used on the fjords of around Oslo. So now the recreational boats are going into electric, and they can actually charge them there. So those are just a few examples until, of course, we reach a beautiful country on our way. Some of you probably know where these photos were taken. Anyone want to guess? The ones that already know? Exactly. Yeah, we couldn't have been more lucky with the timing as well. That these are photos from 2 weeks ago. And so the tour in Finland has taken us not only through beautiful landscapes, but also through very delicate landscapes on the subarctic areas. And we stopped by a couple of your research stations in Kilpisjärvi. We could see what they're doing in terms of relating CO2 emissions intake and also emissions from the ground, and how those areas are actually changing. We had a very interesting presentation from a scientist actually working in Helsinki University, that he was giving us the proof and the facts of the measurements of why and how the Arctic is melting, very close to this area. So a little bit more great photos of the areas. We move center east of Finland, and we finally reach Olanka Research Station. We spent more time there than we were actually planned to spend time, because we really love it. That was a great place to actually understand how they're working on measuring the methane, not just the CO2, but also the methane from the ground, emissions from the ground, and the intake from the ground. And there's great scientists working on that. Some of them actually linking what's going on here with what they are finding in Greenland. There was a young lad from working in Nuuk University that he will give us very interesting information about it, and you will see it on the blog. We'll later speak about that on the Sustainable Tour. So this is very quickly a map of what we have done and we still have to do in Finland. We are really happy to spend time here, because it's somehow, believe it or not, closing the loop for us on what we have learned throughout our tour in Sweden, Norway, and Finland. And by the way, we have Russia on the map. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to go to Russia due to the current COVID regulations, but hopefully that will be a country to cover in the future. So last but not least, we ended up yesterday. We really like to thank Minna again for the great effort. We understand that we were among the few people allowed to, the first, probably the first. Among the first, let's put it that way, among the first. There you are, the first from Italy that came to Suomenlinna with an electric vehicle, right? To see the wreck. And last night we were, we took some time with Alana to discuss about this. First of all, because it's the first time that we dive in such an old wreck. And secondly, we ask ourselves one question, is how can we actually relate the findings and history with sustainability? And very quickly we came up with a sort of conclusion, which is, if we speak about sustainability, as you very well presented with the SDGs goals, the United Nations putting this forward, it's not just about making the planet more sustainable, making the environment more sustainable, but it's also about keeping an eye and protecting the historical heritage, which at the end of the day make us what we are today and will make the future generation. So you're doing a great job on that. We're really lucky to be the first ones, or among the first ones to dive. And with that, with the time constraint, I'm just going to give the word back to Alana, and after we finish, we're really happy to take questions about perhaps more examples, if you want, that we have visited and witnessed throughout the tour.
We want to finish, of course, with the beginning, because in that little blue pale dot is our whole universe. We need to better preserve it, and we need to understand that if you live in planet Earth, there's no way that you cannot consider climate change. It's going to affect you no matter what you live, because we are all interlinked. We are all together in this, and we need to come forward with solutions together. So, as Manu said, we have a website that is sustainabletour.eu. If you quickly want to go to your mobiles and just type it out, you can find in there all the blogs that we are uploading with all the solutions we have found that unfortunately we cannot share it all today, but you can find them there. They're all well written on the blog. And we you can also find our Instagram accounts and our Twitter account, as well as DAN Europe. We invite you all to jump on board of this journey with us and continue to accompany us until we arrive to Italy, back again. And you can follow our journey to DAN Europe accounts, Instagram, Facebook, and please use the hashtag if you want us to share something. Thank you very much for being here. We feel so lucky and so grateful. I don't know if you want to say anything else.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening to us, and we're open for questions if you may have some.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then I will invite our next speaker, who's Sanni Saarimäki. And so she will be talking about the climate change and the mind, why our eco-emotions matter. And I think this is a very important subject, because particularly with the younger generation, there is a lot of anxiety about the changing world and changing climate, and if there's any future for them and their children. So Sanni, please.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me well? Good. It's so nice to be here and see you all live. My name is Sanni Saarimäki. I'm a psychologist, and today I'm here to represent some ideas about eco-emotions. I work daily as a psychologist in Aalto University, but today I'm here because of Tunne, our non-profit organization, and I'm going to tell a bit about that as well. Thank you so much for Manu and Alana for amazing and inspiring presentation. There were so many emotions there, eco-emotions as well, and it was very, very good. Also introduction to what I'm gonna be talking today, because emotions matter. Hopefully you will all agree with me, at least at the end of my presentation. So first, before I start, let's just pause for a moment. How are you doing right now? No need to say that out loud, but just checking yourself. How are you doing right now? What kind of emotions are there present? Feelings, thoughts, body sensations. Wherever you are here in a right place where your body is, and you have emotions. Also, if you feel that, okay, there is nothing you can name, that's okay. But you still have something there. Also, the neutral feeling is some sort of an emotion. Why I'm inviting you to pause is to notice what's happening. Because no matter if we know our feelings, emotions at the present moment, no matter if we do that or not, we still are affected by them. And when we invite ourselves to notice how we are feeling, what kind of emotions there are, we can start to make better choices better actions as well. No emotion is a bad emotion. They all have a message, but sometimes the message is not the one they shout first. For example, for me, I noticed I was a bit anxious to come here and make the presentation. And my mind might say that, okay, what happens if you fail, if you make a bad presentation? I could take that and just say that, okay, I'm not going to do this presentation then. This is too scary. But I started to process my emotion there and realized that, yeah, the anxiety comes from knowing that this is important for me. I'm doing something that is based on my values, and it's important. Anxiety comes because I want to be there, and I want to be involved, and I don't want to fail. So I'm here because of my values, and I take that anxiety with me, so it's my travel companion. And we all have those kind of emotions, also eco-emotions, that are our travel partners in this trip, or what? It's not a vacation, it's a trip that's gonna last for a lifetime, yeah. So Tunne ry, our non-profit organization, was founded 4 years ago. And we provide possibilities to kind of process emotions and thoughts related to climate and environmental change, and also other issues provoked by them. Our aim is to build a world where no one is left alone with eco-emotions. So everybody could have a chance to encounter and also cherish their eco-emotions. No one would be alone. Our working methods are mostly based on our professional backgrounds. For me, as a psychologist and also a history teacher, social work, education, pedagogy, and cultural sector. And we do, for example, workshop and presentations for anyone interested. And this is also started from the realization that we all have these emotions, but we might be very alone with them. And when we come together, something beautiful can form there. So, eco-emotions. First, what are emotions? We all have them. They do impact everything we do and don't do. And they are there for a reason. They have an evolutionary basis. So if we think about, for example, animals, they do also have these emotions. And when they encounter something that brings out difficult or bad feelings, or feelings of being afraid, they know that you have to either run away, or if you cannot run away, then you fight. Or if you cannot do that either, then you play dead. So freeze and hope that the danger goes away. And the pleasant feelings, they tell us that we need to get more of that. We need to be there. We need to engage more. And so it's a message. But in this modern world, us as a human, it becomes a bit more complicated. Because, for example, climate change and environmental problems are something that don't go away, just freezing there or running away. And also the fighting takes a lot of energy. So we need to find ways how to encounter and knowledge our feelings, emotions, and be with them and take them as our travel partners. Basic emotions, fear, sadness, anger, disgust, joy, and surprise are there underneath. And then we get secondary emotions on the top of that. For example, climate or environmental anxiety is a collection of a lot of different kind of feelings. And sometimes, for example, sadness is so hard to be there with the sadness. So the anxiety comes on the top of that, and we try to avoid feeling sad, for example, what's happening. But none of these feelings is a bad feeling. They are all there for a reason. So eco-emotions, a broad definition would be that they are emotions related to these environmental and climate issues, ecology and nature or natural phenomena. And there were so many beautiful emotions there in your Manu and Alana's presentation. So many beautiful emotions, but also those that we might feel that are difficult and hard. For example, being afraid what's going to happen and the sadness of what we are losing. So these can be pleasant or unpleasant. So why psychologist is here to talk about climate change? I'm not any kind of researcher. I'm not any kind of I know quite little of any technology things, or I don't know anything about diving either, for example. So I'm not expert in any of those. But I think psychology has a lot of offer to solving these problems, because emotions are something that connects us all. We all have them. And I think climate change will be answered and solved also in our minds. We need to use our minds and take also emotions seriously here. But like I said at the beginning, our mind might go to this mode that we have to either run away or fight or freeze when we encounter unpleasant feelings. And that's very human. And now you can see there are a long list of different kind of actions that might be quite common, but in the longer run, a bit problematic. If you notice that, yeah, I have used some of those, congratulations, you're a human being. So there's nothing wrong with you. But like I said, in the longer run, this might be a problem, and they are not helping us to solve the problem. So first would be denial, or belittling, shooting the messenger. And there are a lot of people who might deny climate change or deny that it's our fault, human beings' fault. Or there might be people that say that, okay, it is our fault, but there's nothing we can do it. And that also means that they have emotions there. So if there were no emotions, it would mean that they don't care. They're ignoring the thing. But denying it means that they are actually feeling something. Then there are other ways how we might react. Conscious avoidance, surrogate functions, addictions, dissociation. For example, cognitive dissonance, that we kind of know that the problem is there, but we are not really going forward on solving that, for example. Cynicism, thinking that it is not worth of it. That's very common, I think, as well. But then there are other ways. In my daily job as a study psychologist in Aalto University, I might also notice that, for example, young adults, they have this horror devouring or crippling worrying when they feel that there's not anything they can do, but still they know all this hard and difficult information, and they just eat more of it, kind of. So becoming kind of addicted to that most negative perspective, not seeing any other options anymore. And that happens when we are very alone with our feelings. And then there are something that I might call over-performing, acting beyond your own limits, trying to do as much as you can, and this situation, when no one person can solve it, it becomes it becomes a problem. If you just try and try and try and do more, you might be burned out. Compulsive thinking and action, excessive blaming, condemning, punishing. Usually we are also punishing ourselves. But it might be shown also by punishing others for their actions or non-actions. And then as an extreme reaction, there might be also self-destructive thinking and behavior. So, like I said, these are very human. These are our stress reactions: run away, fight, or freeze. But in this case, we are trying to find ways to get the fourth option out. So being present with your emotions, being friends with your emotions, and then also making choice which ones of those thoughts or emotions are the ones that you need to follow. When we encounter eco-emotions, either our own or somebody else, I think we need a lot of compassion. We need to kind of see that there is something very human and common in these feelings. So, me too, and tell me more of it, are the words that we need. Many times we try to take the anxiety away from somebody else. For example, young people, that we say that, oh, you don't need to save the whole world. But that's actually what they are worried about. They are very sad and worried and have a lot of anger because they cannot save it. So it doesn't help. So giving enough space. Tell me more about it. We need that connection. Most of our emotions are very universal, and sharing creates connection, and it actually reduces loneliness. So we also have more constructive ways to handle eco-emotions, and here I want to highlight that we are not trying to get rid of eco-emotions. Eco-emotions are not a problem. Climate change and environmental problems are the problem. So eco-emotions are important, but how to handle them in a way that it doesn't take the balance off. So we need emotional and thinking skills, ability to perceive, express, and regulate our own feelings, emotions, to be with them. We need skills to separate facts from our own interpretations. So noticing what is a fact and what is opinion or interpretation there. And that's sometimes very hard. Very, very hard, also for a psychologist. And then we need acceptance. What are the things that I can impact, and what are the things that I need to accept? For example, I need to learn skills to accept my feelings, but I can still do a lot of actions that are based on my values. And the compassion, like I said, and seeing on two levels. We should have a skill that lets us also be happy of those good results and amazing inventions, for example, and a joy of being together in this journey, but also not pushing away the problems and the facts that are highlighting how serious the situation is. So we need to see the both levels, but we need to also allow ourselves to enjoy the good moments and good results. Yeah, so clarification of one's own values and acting accordingly. So not saying that here is the 10 things you need to do as an individual, but more like, what are those, for example, 10 things that come from your own values that you can do? How do you connect with others with your actions as well? We also need those positive perspectives of the future. Utopias, for example, even though they might not happen, but we need to have ways to see that there are other things than dystopias as well. So that gives us hope that we do something that is meaningful. And then, as human beings, we need also stress management skills and having ways to relax and process. And here I highlight arts and culture, connection to nature, all kinds of ways that relax us, but also give us ways to be with our feelings. And not everybody needs to talk about their feelings, at least not all the time, but there are ways how we can process emotions individually and also together. For example, it might be doing something that involves your own body, like diving, I think. Yeah, nutrition, rest, exercise routines. Those are the ones that everybody knows that are highly important, but do we actually have those in our lives? We shouldn't forget them in the age of climate crisis either. We need them. Yeah, and the last but not the least is cooperation, community, and sharing. And there are some words about that as well. So, why eco-emotions then matter? They are messengers, like I said. They are travel partners, and they are engines of change. But engine doesn't start on its own. We need to kind of start it. So there is a lot of power in our emotions if we encounter them. It is rational to feel fear and anxiety when facing threats to our existence, threats of our beloved planet Earth. This is the part of being alive in this planet. But we are not alone. And it's also rational to feel joy of and love when we connect with other humans and non-human world, with everything that we have around us. We are really interconnected, and I really love that picture, that video of the planet Earth from the space, because that really shows us that none of us is here alone. We are all always, also in this present moment, we are connected. So we need to kind of find ways how to share that and also share those emotions. Find new ways to kind of build a culture where it's okay to have these feelings, and it's something that will help us on this journey. Without that, I don't think we are going to kind of make it. We need to feel, we need to let ourselves feel. So our specialist in Tunne ry, Minerva, wrote this. I'm not sure if it's her quote or somebody else, but I took it from her. So instead of just action, we need connection. It is said that the action is the antidote to anxiety, but maybe connection is a much better remedy. And yeah, I really think that today, here and also online, we are sharing something. And a lot of different kind of ideas and fields are coming together, and I can see it all over the world at the moment. So there is a lot of connection happening. Actions need connection.